What if I told you attraction isn't created by looks, money, or even words, but by how safe, understood, and emotionally stimulated she feels around you? Stay with me, because by the end of this speech, you'll understand 3 beautiful behaviors that don't chase her. They make her chase the feeling of you. Most people confuse attraction with effort. They believe that the more they do, the more they give, the more they chase, the more valuable they become. But emotional attraction does not work on a logical scoreboard. It works on the nervous system. A woman doesn't emotionally attach herself to the man who tries the hardest. She attaches to the man around whom she feels calm, secure, and emotionally regulated. Emotional safety is not loud. It's subtle. It's the feeling that nothing needs to be forced, explained excessively, or proven. When a woman feels emotionally safe with you, her guard lowers without her even realizing it, and that is where real attachment begins. Emotional safety means she doesn't feel pressured to perform, impress, or constantly reassure you. She doesn't feel like your happiness depends on her mood or attention. There is a quiet confidence in a man who is emotionally safe. He is steady in his tone, clear in his intentions, and consistent in his behavior. He doesn't overwhelm her with words when she needs space, and he doesn't disappear when emotions get uncomfortable. This balance creates trust, because trust is not built through grand gestures. It is built through predictability and emotional maturity. When your reactions are stable, her emotions feel safer to express around you. Effort often becomes unattractive when it is driven by fear. Fear of losing her, fear of not being enough, fear of silence. That kind of effort feels heavy. It carries emotional pressure, even if the intentions are good. Emotional safety, on the other hand, feels light. It allows her to breathe. It allows her to be imperfect without consequences. A man who offers emotional safety doesn't rush her feelings or demand clarity before she's ready. He understands that emotions unfold naturally when they are not controlled. This patience signals strength, not indifference. A woman becomes deeply attached when she realizes she can show up as herself without managing your emotions. She can disagree without conflict escalating. She can pull back without being punished. She can speak honestly without walking on eggshells. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you respond with emotional intelligence rather than emotional volatility. Your calm responses teach her that connection with you does not come with emotional chaos. Over time, her mind associates you with peace, and peace is addictive. Emotional safety also comes from self-awareness. A man who understands his triggers, regulates his reactions, and communicates clearly creates an environment where emotional intimacy can grow. He doesn't project past wounds onto present situations. He doesn't make her responsible for healing him. Instead, he shows up whole, grounded, and emotionally accountable. This is why emotional safety is more powerful than effort, because effort tries to convince, while safety allows attraction to happen naturally through trust, consistency, and emotional calm. Intensity often gets mistaken for passion, but in reality, intensity is usually just emotional inconsistency wearing a dramatic mask. It feels exciting at first because it creates highs and lows, unpredictability, and emotional spikes that mimic connection. But over time, intensity becomes exhausting. A woman may feel drawn to intense energy initially, but she does not build emotional attachment there. What she builds attachment to is stability, the quiet assurance that your emotions don't swing based on her behavior, mood, or availability. Stability tells her that being close to you won't cost her peace. Stability shows up in how you speak, how you listen, and how you respond under pressure. It means your affection doesn't disappear when you're frustrated, and your respect doesn't fluctuate based on how much attention you're receiving. A stable man is not emotionally flat. He feels deeply, but he processes emotions instead of unloading them impulsively. This makes him predictable in the healthiest way. Predictability creates trust, and trust creates emotional safety. When a woman knows she won't be emotionally punished for honesty or distance, she relaxes into the connection. Intensity often comes from insecurity. It's driven by urgency, the need for reassurance, immediate responses, emotional validation, or constant closeness. This kind of energy communicates emotional dependence, even when disguised as passion. Stability, however, communicates self-sufficiency. It tells her that you have an internal center, that you are emotionally anchored within yourself. This is deeply attractive because it allows her to connect without feeling responsible for holding the relationship together emotionally. A stable man doesn't rush emotional milestones. He doesn't push for labels, confessions, or guarantees before the emotional foundation is built. He allows things to evolve naturally because he trusts himself and the process. This patience is calming. It removes pressure and replaces it with confidence. A woman feels safer investing emotionally when she knows she's not being rushed into intensity that burns fast and fades just as quickly. Stability also means emotional consistency across time. Your kindness doesn't fade once she becomes comfortable. Your communication doesn't change when challenges arise. Your values don't shift to please or impress her. This consistency creates reliability, and reliability is one of the strongest subconscious attraction triggers. Over time, her nervous system associates you with balance rather than chaos, and balance feels like home. When a woman compares emotional experiences, she may remember the excitement of intensity, but she stays attached to stability. Stability allows intimacy to deepen instead of fracture. It creates space for vulnerability without fear. It builds attraction that doesn't rely on emotional drama to feel alive. This is why the man who remains grounded during emotional moments leaves a lasting imprint. Not because he overwhelms her with feelings, but because he offers emotional steadiness that allows her feelings to grow without resistance. Availability is often mistaken for care. Many people believe that being constantly reachable, instantly responsive, and endlessly accommodating will strengthen attraction. In reality, constant availability flattens emotional value. When someone is always accessible, their presence loses distinction. Presence, however, is different. Presence is not about how often you are there. It is about how fully you are there when it matters. A woman doesn't form deep emotional attachment to a man who is always around. She forms it with the man whose presence changes the emotional atmosphere when he enters it. Presence means emotional engagement without distraction. It is the ability to listen without planning a reply, to observe without interrupting, and to respond with intention rather than habit. When you are present, she feels experienced, not managed. She senses that her words land somewhere meaningful. This creates depth because depth is formed when someone feels understood beyond the surface of conversation. Availability fills time. Presence fills emotional space. One is forgettable, the other is grounding. Constant availability often communicates a lack of direction or inner fulfillment. When your life seems to revolve around responding to her, she unconsciously feels responsible for your emotional rhythm. This creates pressure, even if she cannot articulate it. Presence removes that pressure. A present man has a full life, clear priorities, and emotional discipline. He chooses moments of connection rather than forcing continuity. This selectiveness gives weight to his attention, making it feel intentional rather than automatic. Presence also creates mystery without manipulation. There is a natural pull towards someone whose attention feels earned, not assumed. When you are not always available, but deeply engaged when you are, the emotional experience becomes richer. She remembers how she felt in those moments. Emotional memory is stronger than physical memory, and presence leaves a lasting emotional imprint. It allows conversations to linger in her mind because they felt meaningful, not rushed or diluted. Depth is created when emotional moments are uninterrupted and undivided. A present man is not checking his phone while she speaks. He is not half listening while thinking of the next thing to say. His focus signals respect, and respect deepens attraction. Over time, she begins to associate you with clarity and emotional attunement. That association is powerful because it is rare in a world of constant distraction. Availability, when excessive, removes anticipation. Presence builds it. When emotional connection is not constantly on tap, it retains its significance. She doesn't feel overwhelmed or emotionally saturated. Instead, she feels curious, engaged, and emotionally stimulated. Presence allows space between interactions, and that space gives her room to feel, reflect, and miss the emotional experience of you. Boundaries are often misunderstood as emotional walls, when in reality they are emotional frameworks. Many people fear that setting boundaries will push a woman away, that saying no or holding a standard will reduce attraction. But attraction does not grow in spaces where everything is permitted. It grows where there is structure, clarity, and self-respect. Boundaries signal that you know who you are, what you tolerate, and what you value. This clarity is grounding. It removes confusion and replaces it with emotional certainty, which is far more attractive than endless accommodation. When a man has no boundaries, he slowly teaches a woman that his needs are negotiable and his self-worth is flexible. This creates emotional imbalance. Over time, she may feel guilty, bored, or disconnected without knowing why. Boundaries prevent this by maintaining polarity. They create a sense of definition in the connection. A man with boundaries does not over-explain himself or justify his standards. He states them calmly and consistently. This communicates inner authority rather than control, and inner authority naturally commands respect. Boundaries also protect emotional energy. When you do not tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games, you are not being harsh, you are being emotionally responsible. A woman feels safer with a man who can say no without anger and stand firm without punishment. It tells her that conflict with you will not spiral into chaos. This emotional containment allows desire to grow because desire requires safety to exist long term. Without boundaries, attraction becomes unstable and short-lived. Desire thrives in contrast. When everything is available, nothing feels special. Boundaries create contrast by defining what is earned through mutual respect. This does not mean withholding affection or playing games. It means your affection is aligned with values, not fear. When she sees that access to you is not guaranteed by proximity alone, but by mutual emotional standards, attraction deepens. She doesn't feel controlled. She feels challenged in a healthy way. Healthy challenge stimulates desire far more than compliance ever could. Boundaries also reveal emotional maturity. A man who can walk away from situations that compromise his values demonstrates confidence in his own worth. This willingness is not aggressive or dramatic. It is quiet and grounded. Ironically, the ability to leave is what makes a woman feel secure enough to stay emotionally invested. She knows you are choosing her, not clinging to her. Choice creates desire. Need creates pressure. When boundaries are consistent, they create emotional predictability. She knows where she stands. She knows what behavior strengthens connection and what weakens it. This clarity eliminates emotional guesswork, allowing intimacy to deepen instead of fragment. Over time, boundaries stop feeling like limits and start feeling like stability. They frame the relationship in a way that allows attraction to breathe, evolve, and sustain without emotional erosion. Calm confidence is one of the most underestimated forces in attraction because it does not announce itself. It doesn't demand attention, reassurance, or validation. It simply exists, steady and unshaken. A woman may not consciously label it at first, but she feels it immediately. Calm confidence communicates that you are comfortable within yourself, that your sense of worth does not rise and fall based on her reactions, moods, or level of interest. This internal stability regulates the emotional tone of the connection. When emotions fluctuate, your calm becomes the anchor that keeps the interaction grounded rather than chaotic. Emotional connections often mirror nervous systems. When one person is anxious, reactive, or uncertain, the other person unconsciously absorbs that tension. Calm confidence interrupts this cycle. It slows things down. It creates emotional pacing. A man who responds thoughtfully instead of impulsively sends a powerful signal. Nothing here is out of control. This doesn't mean he lacks emotion. It means he processes emotion before expressing it. That restraint feels safe. Safety allows vulnerability, and vulnerability deepens emotional bonds. Calm confidence also removes emotional pressure. There is no urgency in your tone, no hidden demand behind your words, no fear of silence. You are not rushing outcomes or forcing emotional clarity. This absence of pressure allows a woman to experience her feelings naturally instead of defensively. When she senses that you are not trying to extract reassurance or commitment from her, her body relaxes. Emotional regulation is contagious. Your steadiness teaches her nervous system that connection does not require anxiety to survive. Confidence becomes attractive when it is quiet because it feels authentic. Loud confidence often seeks to impress. Calm confidence does not need to prove anything. It shows in your posture, your speech, your eye contact, and your ability to pause without discomfort. Silence does not threaten you. Disagreement does not destabilize you. Distance does not trigger panic. This emotional self-sufficiency is deeply regulating because it allows her to feel without managing your reactions. She is free to move toward you emotionally without fear of overwhelming you or being responsible for your emotional state. Calm confidence also sharpens emotional clarity. You communicate directly without mixed signals or emotional games. Your words align with your behavior. This alignment builds trust because inconsistency creates confusion, and confusion erodes attraction. When a woman knows that what you say reflects who you are, emotional connection becomes simpler and deeper. She does not have to decode your intentions or second-guess your emotional position. This clarity reduces emotional friction and allows intimacy to grow organically. Over time, calm confidence becomes associated with emotional relief. After intense days, complicated emotions, or overwhelming experiences, she feels calmer around you. This is not accidental. Her mind and body begin to link your presence with emotional regulation. You become the place where emotions settle instead of escalate. That association is powerful because humans naturally gravitate toward what soothes them. Calm confidence does not pull her in through excitement alone. It draws her in through emotional balance, steadiness, and an unspoken sense of control over oneself. Self-respect is not something you demonstrate through words. It is something others feel through your decisions, your standards, and what you are willing to walk away from. A man with self-respect does not beg to be chosen, does not negotiate his worth, and does not shrink himself to maintain connection. This creates a powerful psychological signal. It tells a woman that your identity is solid, that your life is meaningful with or without her presence, and that your value does not depend on external validation. Attraction rooted in self-respect lasts because it is not built on fear of loss, but on choice. When self-respect is absent, attraction becomes unstable. A man may become overly accommodating, tolerate behavior that makes him uncomfortable, or suppress his needs to avoid conflict. At first, this may look like emotional generosity, but over time it erodes respect on both sides. A woman may not consciously reject him for this, but her attraction slowly weakens because she senses the imbalance. Self-respect corrects this imbalance by maintaining emotional equality. It ensures that both people meet as whole individuals, not as one person giving and the other receiving. Self-respect also shapes how conflict is handled. A man who respects himself does not argue to win or submit to keep peace. He communicates clearly, listens without defensiveness, and stands by his values without aggression. This creates emotional security because conflict does not feel threatening or destabilizing. A woman feels safer attaching to someone who can hold tension without collapsing or exploding. Emotional safety and attraction are deeply connected, and self-respect strengthens both by preventing emotional extremes. Another powerful aspect of self-respect is the willingness to leave situations that compromise personal values. This does not mean abandoning connection at the first sign of discomfort. It means recognizing when emotional costs outweigh emotional growth. A man who can walk away calmly sends a strong message. Connection with me is intentional, not desperate. This paradoxically increases attraction because it removes emotional manipulation from the dynamic. She knows you are choosing her, not clinging to her, and choice is far more attractive than need. Self-respect also influences how affection is given. Affection from a self-respecting man feels genuine, not transactional. He does not give to receive, compliment to be validated, or invest to secure loyalty. His actions are aligned with his values rather than expectations. This consistency creates trust because there are no hidden emotional debts. When affection is freely chosen rather than emotionally required, it carries more weight and meaning. Over time, self-respect becomes the emotional backbone of the connection. It keeps attraction from turning into dependency. It allows love to grow without fear, boundaries to exist without punishment, and intimacy to deepen without loss of self. A woman may not consciously identify self-respect as the reason she feels drawn, but she will feel its effects in the stability, clarity, and strength of the emotional bond